the ultimate crown, being the king of this whole world. And so Jesus, knowing all of this would happen, even whilst he was creating a world. So quite a heartbreaking affair, creating a world that you know that one day, 4,000 years in, you're going to come in and give your life for mankind who would kill you in jealousy and rage in trying to cast you out of the kingdom. So quite a struggle for Jesus in creating the world, and at the same time creating a world for us. And we being in the mind of God, actually, before we were even created. Now, this is kind of brought out here in Psalm 139. And King David here is kind of having a heart cry to God, as he did, and acknowledging that God knows all of his ways. He knows everything about him. He knows his thoughts. He even knows what he's going to say. And so he yields to God's Spirit, and he writes down these words. And some of these words are coming straight from God. They're coming through King David as coming from God. And so he writes them down. And a lot of these words are actually prophecy. Now, when after Jesus' resurrection, he talks to his disciples and he points out all the prophecies written by King David, even in the Psalms. So a lot of David's heart cries to God would go from heart cry, from his own personal heart cry to God, and was suddenly spin off into prophecy. So it's both heart cry and prophecy. And the prophecy meaning he's getting this straight from God. It's not coming from his own mind. It's coming straight from God. And so these words written down are even on the level of prophecy. Prophecy, in other words, hearing from God and then writing down what God says to him, as did even King Solomon. Now, here's King David. He's writing down these words. He's acknowledging that God knows all of his ways, and that God is with him round every corner and every thought and everything he says and does. God indeed knows everything about him. Now, here he is in verse, let's go, verse 14 in Psalm 139. And he's going on to say, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Right? So he's acknowledging that God indeed is the one that made him, as he also, of course, made us. That we were, but as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believed on his name. You simply believe on the name of Jesus, that you're open to all of this, even to them which were born not of the will of the flesh, nor the will of man, nor of blood, right, but of God. You were born of God. You weren't a fluke. You weren't a mistake. You didn't come in via your parents went out and got sloshed one night, got drunk, went home, had sex, and therefore, oh, blimey, I'm pregnant. Sod it, kind of thing. People would say, what are we going to do? We'll have to keep him. So a lot of people coming into this world kind of trashed from the beginning that they didn't want to get. Your parents might not have wanted to get pregnant, but they couldn't bring themselves to have an abortion as they do now. And so, damn it, they'd have to have the kid. So it's sad, and it's so many people coming into the world now under those circumstances, and unwanted from the very beginning. But even so, God is the one that would have allowed this to happen. And no doubt God having a special plan for you in spite of all of this. And so here's King David. He comes into a world, and it didn't turn out good for him under King Saul, but it was going to be good for him in the end. And though he was trashed by King Saul, The plan all along by God was him to be the true king of Israel at that time. And so King David was a man after God's heart. And all of this trouble that went on in his life brought him closer to God, and his heart cry to God is all in the Psalms here. Through his struggles on earth, crying out to God under the oppression and being an outcast, and even his life on the line every day. So now he's talking about his birth, acknowledging that it's God that created him, in spite of all of these troubles. And so he says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvellous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. Now remember, a lot of this is on the level of him getting it straight from God, and also his heart cry to God. My substance, now he's talking about in the womb now, right from the very beginning, right in the womb, which were born not of the will of flesh, not the will of the flesh, nor of man, nor of blood, right? Just because you came in you're French, or you're Spanish, or you're British, or American, or whoever you are, it's not really about the blood. You're a Jew, right? Or whoever, don't your blood, his blood, their blood, whoever's blood is not any more special than anyone else's blood. We are born of God. It's God who decides the day we were born. Just like God decided the day when Jesus would be born. God created a world, and Jesus created this world with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. And he was slain from the foundation of the world. So God created a world knowing that he was one day going to give his only begotten son to this world. And so Jesus was going to come into this world 4,000 years later. After creating a world, Jesus was going to be born here, and would eventually give his life, age 33 years old, in fact, for mankind, literally throw himself to the wolves. Jealous, hungry, envious, revengeful wolves in giving his life for mankind. Now, not easy to create a world that you're eventually going to die in, is it? So my substance, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvellous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. So now he's going into the very womb where we were all made, where he was made, right? My substance was not hid from thee. Now you think, okay, my substance was not hid from thee. In the womb, you're just tiny little cells. The sperm, as we know, goes into the egg. And then you're just a little blob of cells, you might say, at that point. So he's saying, my substance was not hid from thee. God has this substance in the womb. You have a sperm. It's no doubt directed by God. That tiny little sperm, microscopically seen under a microscope, going into the egg, and then it doubles up in cells, and so you have this substance. But have no illusions, that tiny little egg, that tiny little cell in the very womb, God no doubt directing that sperm to that egg in his mind, right? He has you. You're already in God's mind before you're actually created. That's incredible.